It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM radio network here at thenewamericanmedia.com. I am your host, Brian Engelman. Thank you for joining us. I guess you like sports also. Isn't sports cool? Hey, I'm wondering, have you guys seen that? Have you seen that meme that's going around where it's Dumb and Dumber, except it's LeBron on the back of the bike? We tweeted that out. If you go back and take a look, it was a couple days ago. It was on our Facebook and our Twitter. Why don't you take a look at it if you haven't seen it? It's pretty funny. I won't even ruin it for you. It's just so goofy and perfect, but it kind of sums up so much of what Clevelanders are feeling right now. Please check those out. Our homepage is at thenewamericanmedia.com. And on the bottom right, we have two things. So on the right side, you have the TNAM radio. That's where you can listen live every single week. You just click play when the show's live. You can live tweet us. We're at American_media_. So follow us on Twitter. And our Facebook page is at the bottom right of our homepage as well. You can also do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between and like the page. We had a bunch of likes last week. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was all the Cavs stuff and LeBron James coming back. I'm not so sure, but something got people following us last week. We get this email once a week from Facebook telling us all of our information. Anyhow, also, really want you to subscribe to our youtube.com/The New American Media channel. That thing is really taking off right now. Yeah, so connect with us at all these places. You got to see that LeBron thing. It's really funny. And we also, we're talking Andrew Wiggins. We're talking Kevin Love. What is going on? Of course, I could talk about that. I could read you some stories. I could bring in NBA scout and lifelong Cleveland sports fan, Zak Baris. So I think let's just do that since he's our NBA guru. Because Zak kind of had his finger on the pulse of this for a long time. And I'll explain.
Hey Brian, how you doing?
You know, I'm living the dream, Zak. I was telling people that you've been a part of the program for a really long time now, and that you've really had your finger on the pulse of this Cleveland LeBron situation. And I believe you noticed, because I think you retweeted the fact that we called LeBron returning to Cleveland 9 months ago. 9 months ago, and the Cavs did everything they could this year to blow that opportunity. The Andrew Bynum thing, the losing streaks, just the problems. They almost did everything they could to blow it, but it ended up coming around full circle. But we kind of both knew this 9 months ago, so you know,
the only reason I honestly toned it down on your show was because I didn't want, because I knew there were a bunch of people going, okay, you're crazy, and if it didn't happen, I didn't want to sit there and be like, okay, we spent so much time dwelling on this one subject. But I mean, I think it was brought up on every single show for a long period of time.
I think it was. I think it was all year long. That's kind of all I cared about. I saw a poll. LeBron is the most popular athlete in all of sports, and he's the best. He's the best at his craft. He's at the peak of his game right now. Would you still say LeBron is the best player in the league, or Kevin Durant because he got the MVP last year? Is LeBron still the best of the best?
It's still LeBron. It's like I said. I said it last year when he was with Miami. I'm going to say it again this year when he's with Cleveland. He's still the best player in the league. Kevin Durant's yet to take that throne from him. But Kevin Durant, the beginning of Kevin Durant's career is eerily similar to that of LeBron James. If you go and look at it, basically, I think Durant came into the league. He came in 2007. His first 7 years have been eerily similar to LeBron. He got one title appearance, didn't win.
Kind of got smoked.
He's had constant failures basically after that title appearance, in the conference finals, conference semifinals. It's, against San Antonio, and it's really been something that this team has, it's just something that Durant, he's got his MVP now, but it's something that's very similar to LeBron's. But the difference is between the two teams is, the difference is the Cavs kept spending and acquiring old players when they had LeBron the first time. And with Durant, it's been, they have Westbrook. They traded away James Harden. They could have gotten themselves Pau Gasol in free agency, but once again, Clay Bennett's cheapness didn't allow them to do that, because he wasn't willing to amnesty Perkins. And it screwed them once again. I mean, I'm telling you, a team with Oklahoma City with Pau Gasol and Serge Ibaka in that front court, and having Durant in the middle, having Reggie Jackson and Russell Westbrook in your backcourt, that's a team that probably could beat San Antonio in the West, or at least get close.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma City once neglected, the thoughts of Kevin Durant's very quiet. He doesn't say anything. But I can tell you right now, and I highly, highly doubt Oklahoma City wins the title in the next 2 years while he's there. I'm gonna say this now. I've been saying this for a while. Like I said, if Kevin Durant is to leave, you're gonna see teams out there like the Knicks, the Lakers in 2 years. But I think the one team that really is planning for him right now, that's going to have the cap space for him in 2 years, is the Washington Wizards.
That's his hometown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've brought that up multiple times now. We've gone over this a few times. That Durant.
They've got a nice fit with when you've got a roster of Beal. When you've got Beal and Wall to build around, you've got Marcin Gortat signed for the next 5 years. The pieces are in place for Kevin Durant to go back to Washington. Paul Pierce is a short-term option. There's a reason why they didn't commit 4 years to Trevor Ariza or go after Luol Deng on a long-term contract. There's a reason for it. They're planning ahead for the future. And I think I strongly believe that Clay Bennett as an owner, I really don't understand why it's not talked about so much. I think it will be in a year or so, of how bad he's been for the team. Yeah, he brought Oklahoma City a basketball team.
He stole a team from another city. I don't like teams that move.
Exactly. Trust me, I rooted against Oklahoma City. I was so happy when they lost, when they were 2-29 or whatever they were, when they first moved to Oklahoma City. I thought it was, just wrong for Seattle as a team, a great fan base.
Well, you and I, Zach, we've both lost the Cleveland Browns. Art Modell took them, 95, 96, took them over to Baltimore. That crushed us, and we have not been a decent team probably until this year. Yeah, maybe a Derek Anderson
that
fluke
still
aside.
remains to be seen.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Getting back to it, if you look at it, Clay Bennett, I just don't understand why this is never talked about. Clay Bennett, if they've been willing to amnesty Perkins 2 years ago, there's a decent chance they'd still have James Harden. And Perkins has done nothing. I mean, he's nothing at this point. He's not a rim protector. He's nothing. He's one of the worst centers in the entire league. He's terrible. And you didn't amnesty him, and I just don't understand why this isn't being talked about by the national media. If you would have amnestied him, it would have given you more money to go out and sign Gasol. And that's what they needed. I think Pau was a perfect fit on the Thunder. He really would have been a perfect fit on the Thunder. And instead, OKC's going in there. They're not the favorites in that conference. It's still San Antonio by a mile.
Well, I want to talk about Pau because the Bulls have been making a ton of moves. They've been very active. A lot of moving pieces there. I want to get to that. But first, I wanted to cover this question, and I will circle back around here to the Thunder and Pau Gasol and some of these moves. And by the way, Houston, a team that you said couldn't do anything wrong for the longest time, man, they did not have the best week and a half that I can think of, and we'll talk about that. But the raging discussion now is the Minnesota Timberwolves think they have clout. They think that they have the cards. They think they have the negotiating power to be demanding tons and tons and tons from a player that's already checked out on them in Kevin Love. Now people are saying it's the raging debate. Should the Cavs trade #1 pick this year, Andrew Wiggins, for Kevin Love? I want to break this down from every angle from your point of view.
I'm going to break it down from every angle for you. Right now, this is a poker game. Minnesota thinks they hold the leverage. Cleveland thinks they hold the leverage. And I tend to think Cleveland has more leverage than Minnesota. I'm not saying that as a Clevelander. I'm saying that in the fact that if you go back and you analyze all the trades of the biggest superstars traded over the past 3 to 4 years, let's start with Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony was traded for some good talent, but he was not traded for anyone that was anywhere near his talent level. Gallinari was a good player. There were a bunch of good players in that trade, decent players.
4 quarters for $1.
The Cavaliers, that was almost one of those deals where Denver was just as good of a team without Carmelo as they were with him.
Yeah, and that's right.
Because they already had some pieces that fit around, and they got some more pieces that fit around really nicely around that roster they had. But if you look at it now, Denver's nowhere near what they were 2-3 years ago. And so, but like I said, the Knicks did not acquire the #1 pick. I mean, Denver did not acquire the rights to the next future superstar in this league. Let's go analyze the Chris Paul trade. Chris Paul was traded. Can you even remember who he was traded for?
Well, he originally ended up with the Lakers, though.
Eric Gordon was the centerpiece of that deal. Even when the Lakers deal was, it was Powell. It was Powell and Odom who was center around. Odom was aging. He was no longer a superior player in the league anymore. And Powell was Powell, but Chris Paul is on a whole other level than Pau Gasol. I mean, he always has been. Pau Gasol's been a great player in this league, but I mean, Chris Paul is just, and that trade fell through. So
yeah. And you know what? The thing about Chris Paul, I just want to say this because I have come to this realization over the past 2 years. As good as Kyrie Irving is, and I mean when Kyrie's on, like when he's winning 3-point championships, or when he's winning the All-Star Game MVP, or when he's really having a lights-out performance in a Cavs uniform, Chris Paul is even better. But I see the same player at different stages of development. I still see so much potential there. But Chris Paul is a hell of a player, but I kind of just had that realization about just how... Would you say he's the best in the league?
Well, yeah, I mean, Paul's the best point guard in the league. He's the best passer, and it's not even close.
Who's 2 and 3? Who's number 2? Who's number 3?
I mean, that's a tough debate.
That's why I'm asking.
I mean, don't forget, I was never one of those people, but we're looking at 2-3 years ago where people going, "Oh, Darren Williams is better than than Chris Paul," and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, "Have you watched any basketball? Darren Williams is a good player. Now look at Darren Williams. Darren Williams is, he's nothing now."
Yeah.
I mean, but if you go and analyze, I mean, you've got Russell Westbrook up there. You've got Kyrie Irving. I mean, there are a ton of good point guards.
People thought Rajon Rondo was going to be there.
Rondo's nowhere near Chris Paul. I mean, I wouldn't even put them in the same category.
No, but maybe 2 years ago, people were saying, "Look, this kid is making his way up here." There was that conversation.
But the problem is Rondo's shooting never developed, and that was the issue. I mean, Chris Paul's a great shooter. That's the thing. Chris Paul's a fantastic shooter.
Right, and Kyrie won the 3-point championship. I know he's a good shooter. Derrick Rose, but he's been injured so many times, you just don't know what you're getting out of him.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many. Like I said, there's plenty of great point guards in this league. I mean, you've got Tony Parker too, but Chris Paul is Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul's really, he's just a fantastic player.
Yeah, and the point that you're making is that when Carmelo and Chris Paul and these other people moved, you're not getting back a number 1 pick, potential future superstar in the league. You're getting back pieces for something, or draft picks or something to help.
I mean, look what the New Orleans got in the trade. They got Eric Gordon, Al-Farouq Amino, and Chris Kaman in that deal. Kaman was an average center in the league. Al-Farouq Amino was a complete bust. He was, I think, the 9th overall pick a few years ago. Never really amounted to anything, though, even when he was traded. And they got Eric Gordon, who was a good shooting guard. It's almost like trading, it'd be the equivalent of trading Dion Waiters and Tristan Thompson. That's what it's the equivalent to. It's a Dion Waiters and Tristan Thompson trade right there, and maybe a draft pick involved too. Like I said, the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers hold all the cards in this one.
I think so too.
By the day, Minnesota will start sweating it out that they have Kevin Love in that roster, and they know they're going to get nothing for him.
Let me jump in, because this is another point that I had. When you look at what the Cavs have, and there's only so much salary to go around, the Cavs have invested the past couple of years in a lot of draft picks. The Tristan, the Dion, the Anthony Bennett, etc. These are players that maybe have not reached their potential, maybe need the right coach, and maybe the best player on the planet to make them look better. People with talent, people with athletic ability. Some people are just wondering, wouldn't it be better off if we just kept these young pieces for the price that we have to pay?
I think what people are worried about, and this is what we'll go over now, and I also want to analyze the Dwight Howard trade too.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at that 3-way trade, Philadelphia ultimately got screwed. They gave up Nikola Vucevic for Andrew Bynum, and they gave a bunch of picks.
Bynum was horrible.
And, well, I mean, Vucevic's he's a very good player. Is he an all-star? No, but he's a very good player. And that was what Orlando was able to land out of it. That's what they got out of the deal. They didn't get much. Orlando got Vucevic for Dwight Howard, and look, Orlando was a 20-win team last year, doing in the low 20s. Like I said, a player like that, he's a very good player, but he's not making that big of an impact yet. His warp isn't 15 games like Dwight Howard is, or 17 games a season.
Yeah.
Wins above replacement player. He wasn't that. So like I said, it's the coup you can get for these guys. And Kevin Love is in the same category as the Chris Pauls and the Dwight Howards. He is in that category. And the Carmelo Anthonys. He's all in there. And like I said, for what those guys got, if the Cavaliers give up Wiggins and Bennett in a pick, Minnesota will be getting a steal. I'm not saying it. I think right now Love is one of the top 6 players in the NBA, top 7 players.
You would put him that high?
Yeah, but here's the issue. The issue is that Minnesota doesn't have any leverage. They're going to lose Kevin Love no matter what after the season.
Right.
No matter what. He is not going to stay there. And Flip Saunders is eventually going to have to trade him. If not, you're going to lose him in free agency. You're going to get absolutely nothing for him. You might get a couple late first-round picks and a sign and trade, and that's it. So I think Cleveland really now holds the leverage. If I were Cleveland, what I would do is I would wait to see at the beginning of the season. Let LeBron play with these guys. If it doesn't work out after a couple weeks, you can still go and trade Andrew Wiggins and get this whole thing together.
That's if the Warriors don't complete a deal.
LeBron tends to make everybody around him better, though. We saw that with the 2009-2010 Cavs when they won 61 games, and in the following season, they won 19. Now, granted, they were decimated by injuries, but still.
They had a new coach. They got rid of Shaquille O'Neal. They got rid of LeBron James. Go down the laundry list.
Ilgauskas was gone, but still. The majority of that roster was there the next season. And those are guys.
A chunk of it.
No, but I'm saying, Mo Williams was there for the most part. Those guys, Antoine Jameson was there. Those guys, a lot of those guys were there. And you saw how much better they looked with LeBron. Jamario Moon. Was helpless without LeBron. Boobie Gibson was a completely different player when he played with LeBron than when he didn't play with him. He wasn't getting those open looks. It was like Danny Green. And Danny Green, if Danny Green is to be the number 1 or 2 option on the team, he's not going to be getting open looks. You put Danny Green on a great basketball team, you put him on the Cavs, you put him on Oklahoma City, you put him on San Antonio. He's going to look great because he can make any open shot.
Right. And that's what people are wondering. How far can this Cavs team develop as it is, and then just get Kevin Love in the offseason? And trade nothing. Give up zero
be very tough
for
to
him.
get Kevin Love in the offseason.
All right, I'm dying to hear why. But let me ask.
The rights of LeBron.
Hold on. I want to get into all of that. Why it's going to be tough. But first, we got to clear. What if the Warriors get him? Because the Warriors are a team that's ascending right now. And
I don't think Golden State's going to give up Klay Thompson and David Lee at this point. I just cannot see that happen.
Say the Cavs back out and say, you know what, Minnesota, you should be lucky you can get anything for this guy. Because Kevin Love, and I want to get to this too, I think Kevin Love maybe could play some hardball with the right publicly placed comment. He could poison the whole market and force a deal to Cleveland and to get it done quick. If he just says, I'm not signing anywhere but Cleveland, rent me if you want, but I wouldn't trade assets. But you have that leaked the right way. But, that's what I'm trying to figure out with this is why wouldn't the Warriors go get him? Because they're not going to give up as much? What if the Cavs drop away and the Warriors are all that's left? So then he goes there?
I don't think Golden State wants – if Golden State wanted to give up Klay Thompson at this point, a deal would have been made. A deal would have been made already. If they wanted to give up Klay Thompson and David Lee, the deal would have been done. There's a reason why it hasn't been done, because Golden State's been hesitant. They haven't put that deal on the table. If Minnesota was offered that deal, they would take it today. But they didn't, and there's a reason they didn't take that deal.
Which is?
Because they weren't offered it.
Okay, so what are the... That's what I'm wondering, though. I mean, if the Cavs pull away, it's not like you lose Kevin Love forever. He's up on the open market next year. Explain what it means to sign and trade.
The Cavaliers don't have the cap space. So the thing is, you have to do a sign and trade involving Brendan Haywood, because he's got I don't know if he's got a $10 million trade exception. He's got some really large trade exceptions since he was amnestied a few years ago.
Can you explain what that means?
I cannot explain exactly what it is because I'm not in front of my computer and I don't have my notes in front of me right now. But I can tell you, basically at the top of my head, is that Brendan Haywood was amnestied a few years ago.
Okay, and break down what being amnestied means, because that happened with what Carlos Boozer.
So Carlos Boozer, he had 1 year left and 13.9 left on the books.
Okay.
So basically, the team will pay that player's entire salary.
13.9 paid by the Bulls.
But it will not count against the cap. So it frees up that cap room. So what happened is, it's like the length of the contract. So basically what happens is it goes to a waiver wire. So teams place a bid. So let's say a few years ago when Phoenix
didn't that happen with Ilgauskas, right?
No, Ilgauskas was not amnestied. Baron Davis was amnestied by the Cavs.
Okay.
The only player amnestied by every team has been allowed one amnesty under the clause, and that's it. You only get one amnesty provision.
One forever in your whole franchise?
Yeah, one for the whole franchise, and it's only a one-time thing and has to be used by the end of this year. That's it. It's done.
Oh, one per year.
No, it's not one per year. It's one per franchise.
Okay.
The amnesty provision is done. It's done. And so what happens is basically Luis Scola got amnestied by the Rockets a few years ago. Phoenix submitted a bid. Cleveland submitted, I think, their $2 or $3 million offer. Phoenix really wanted him, so Phoenix offered $4 million. So Phoenix was giving Luis Scola $4 million, and Houston, let's just say he was making $12 million at the time. I don't know what he was making. But that means Houston was on the books for $8 million of it at that point, and Phoenix was on the books for $4 million. He would count $4 million against Phoenix's cap.
So the Lakers just picked up Carlos Boozer. What are they paying him?
I haven't even seen. I have not even seen that they picked up Carlos Boozer yet.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's not true. I'm like I said, I'm not next to my computer, and I haven't been on Twitter or anything in the last 20 minutes. So if they just picked him up, it's news to me.
Carlos Boozer joining the Lakers, and I'm going to ESPN, and I hope it really doesn't crash my computer. Let's see. It says Lakers won with a bid of 3.25. 9 teams with cap space were able to make a blind bid, picking up the remaining portion of Boozer's 16.8. So it'd be 16 minus 3, so it'd be 13.4 or something.
13 point.
Yeah, something like 13 and a half. So
what I don't get, though, is why they just made that move. You have Julius Randle. Let Julius Randle blossom. You're not competing for a playoff spot this year anyways. That's what I don't get about it. I really don't. If I were LA, I would just try to suck this year. LA with a healthy Kobe Bryant is probably going to win 32 games this year with a healthy Kobe Bryant. They're that bad. With an unhealthy Kobe Bryant, you could be looking at 15 to 20 wins.
They're talking about Kobe being traded to the Knicks, back to Phil Jackson, finish his career, get some assets back. Anyway, yeah, I get all the LA sports talk. So there,
he would have to be traded. He would have to be traded for Bargnani or Amari. I think you could do Amari for Kobe straight up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People were saying the Cavs had a chance to get Amari Stoudemire, but they didn't want to get rid of J.J. Hickson. Look how that turned out.
That wasn't true. That deal was never on the table. I've reiterated on this show 50 times that deal was never on the table. If that deal was on the table, the Cavaliers would have pulled the trigger. It never was.
But you look a couple of years later and you see. Well, I mean, you just look at Amari's, that he's broken down and his huge contract.
But at the time, though, Cleveland would have won Cleveland a title that year. It would have. They would have gone in there with Shaq, Amari, LeBron, Mo Williams, Anthony Parker. I mean, that team was dangerous. That team was really dangerous. They would have won a title that year. It wouldn't even have been close. And they probably would have won the title the following year, too. After that, everything would have deteriorated. It would have been a complete disaster, and LeBron would be walking now to a new team. So I mean, like I said, stuff plays out for a reason. It does. And as good as Amari was, he doesn't have that anymore. He's got bad knees. And getting back to this, getting back to the whole Wiggins thing and the whole thing with the Bulls now, the Bulls are a much better team now. Having Pau Gasol in their front court, having Nikola Mirotic in their front court. Now
I get where we. Hold on. Now I remember where we were at. We were talking about the Haywood, the weirdness of his contract that the Cavs traded.
So he has a really large trade exception coming. I don't know what the exact figure is. I'm not going to just throw out a number on the show.
Now, amnesty versus trade exception, different in what way?
Well, Haywood still has another year in his country. Like I said, I don't know how the provision works exactly with Brendan Haywood's because I haven't sat there and analyzed it. I just haven't had time, and I've had no reason to.
Fair enough.
Like I said, it doesn't affect me in one way or the other. But if they were to go and trade Haywood next year, I know they do have a large trade exception with Haywood, which would allow them to go and trade for another player or go and sign and trade. But getting Kevin Love would be very, very tough for this basketball team next year.
The trade exception is what I'm trying to understand fully, though, just the concept of it. I get the amnesty. You can bail on a contract. You still got to pay it. But it's like your get-out-of-jail-free card. Like, oh, my gosh, thank you. Whatever. I got done with that.
The Cavaliers had a large trade exception after the sign-and-trade with LeBron and never used it. They never used it. They didn't take on more salary. It was just unnecessary. They were tanking at the time. But getting back to this now is, if you're the Cavaliers, your time for Kevin Love is this season or it's never. It's not going to be next offseason. I'm letting the fans know that right now. It's not going to be next offseason. It's now or never.
Why?
So,
as a fan, I don't get it.
The Cavaliers will not have the cap room next season to just go out and sign him outright. They will not have the cap room. So it will not work. So what's going to have to happen is they're going to need Kevin Love in a Cavalier uniform this season. That's where Minnesota holds a little bit of the leverage. But at the same time, if Cleveland, I tend to think that Dion Waiters is going to have a big year. I tend to think that Thompson and Bennett will all have big years and show a lot of potential. I think those are the three movable pieces on the Cavs roster other than Andrew Wiggins. And I tend to think they don't move Tristan Thompson because of the whole Rich Paul LeBron connection.
No, and that's fair. I want you to explain that, but are you saying these players are all going to have big years wherever they play, if it's Minnesota?
No, I think
if it's Cleveland.
I think Tristan benefits the most from LeBron. I think Tristan and Z, especially. I mean, Tristan and Verjao benefit especially from LeBron. When you have a passer like that, and you'll have Kyrie open, you have LeBron to free up the lane, Thompson's going to sit there, he's going to have a bunch of open dunks. That's just what LeBron does. You know, look at Chris Anderson. Chris Anderson is never a superior offensive player by any means. Look what he was able to do in the playoffs a year ago. I mean, he annihilated the Indiana Pacers in that series a year ago. He dominated the Spurs. He had a fantastic series because he was just putting in putbacks. It was great for him. I mean, LeBron was able to feed him, and Thompson and Verge are much more skilled offensively than Chris Anderson ever was. You know, Chris Bosh last year, 49. I mean, LeBron had his highest percent of his assist rate going to Chris Bosh last year. Bosh is still a very good player. But in terms of LeBron tends to make, you know, his power forwards and his centers look great. He does. I mean, you remember Verge used to have all those open looks in Cleveland. LeBron was there. I think.
Oh yeah, the give and goes.
Greatly from him. You know, Bennett still needs to cut out the three-point shooting. You know, he really needs to just cut that out of his game. He's not a three-point shooter right now.
Well, they said that about LeBron before he got. They said that about LeBron too.
I just said it doesn't mean he won't be in 2 to 3 years, but right now on a championship caliber basketball team, which he'll be playing for, you need to cut that out.
Okay.
It's not something you should be doing with and messing around with. It's going to land you time on the bench if you're going to be taking stupid shots.
No, fair enough.
And the one nice thing about Thompson is you don't have to worry. Thompson's going to go and get you rebounds. He's not going to take anything. He's not going to take any stupid shots. You don't have to worry about that with Thompson. I fully expect this is the year you'll see the growth from Thompson, and I think Dion Waiters too. I think the maturation from Dion Waiters will be much improved this season having LeBron there. He'll have a lot more open looks in the lane, just everything. Kyrie, I think everybody will look better. LeBron makes all of his teammates look better. And especially, it looks like they're about to add Ray Allen to the mix, too, especially after adding Mike Miller and James Jones. You've now got your shooters. Adding Ray Allen only helps this basketball team.
Explain, because he's talking about retiring. Of course, you're talking about the intangibles and the intangibles, the intelligence, the Hall of Fame career. How does he really help this team?
The guy's got rings. The guy's been a winner his whole career. He's been one of the best. He's one of the best shooters in NBA history. And I think he's a huge. He's a good leader in the clubhouse. I think he's the perfect guy for the Cavaliers at this point. You know, he's a guy, like I said, he's a guy with championship experience. He's been to the finals twice with the Boston Celtics. He won once. He's been there, a couple of times with the Miami Heat, and he's gotten a championship over there. You know, he's a proven winner, and the guy's he's one of the most well-respected players in the NBA. Always has been. So you put him in that Cavaliers lineup. He's not going to start, but coming off the bench, he's going to be real dangerous, really dangerous, and it makes some of the other guys expendable. So it makes a guy, if you add Ray Allen, that makes Dion Waiters expendable.
Well, people are wondering if Dion's expendable anyway.
I tend to think that the Cavaliers, like I said, if a trade was imminent tonight, going out in the next 24 to 40 hours, Andrew Wiggins would not have played. He would not have played tonight. He put up 21 points on 5 shots.
that's kind of all right.
It's a hell of a true shooting percentage right there.
Yeah.
So, through advanced statistics and advanced metrics, that's a hell of a night. 21 points. He went 3 for 5 for 21 points. The guy made all of his free throws. He was really good tonight. He still has his hiccups. He's a rookie. He's going to.
Yeah, of course.
If the Cavaliers can get away without having to give up Wiggins, you're looking at a team that's going to contend for 7 to 8 years in a row.
That's the only way. Now, the Cavs have something that the Warriors don't. We have 3 first-round draft picks next year. Would you rather have...
They've already traded theirs to Boston already.
That's right. Okay.
And I can tell you they will not be picking next year because Memphis is not a mid-lottery team. The way the protection's on that pick, I think it's 15 to 30 and 1 through 5 or 1 through 6. So the provisions of that one, they're not going to be getting that one next year either. Yeah, they'll probably be getting Miami because I doubt Miami will be picking in the top 10. Miami's not that bad. Miami still looks like... they could win 40-something games. My guess is low 40s if I had to go.
Well, what was it protected? It was top 10 or top
10, top
lottery
10 this
protected?
year, top 10 next year, unprotected in 2017.
Okay. Well, if Wade breaks down and Bosh has an injury, who knows where that pick could be. Now, so the Cavs. I mean, if you were the Timberwolves, obviously you led this show off saying that you felt that the Cavs are holding the cards. I mean, what do you do if you're the Timberwolves? Play T-Wolves GM for a minute here.
Flip Saunders. I mean, here's the problem, though. If the problem is with LeBron already reaching out to Kevin Love. It shows that the Cavaliers desperately want Love, and they got to get a deal done now. That's the issue with it. I mean, the thing is, you can sit there and go into training camp, see what you have with these guys. But if you want to win the title next year, go out and get Kevin Love. And if that means, Cleveland is starved for a title. I'm telling you right now, if you go out and get Kevin Love, you've got a guaranteed win in the East, and you probably got a great shot at winning the title next year. A great shot. It'll be the best shot they've ever had.
With a rookie coach?
Yep.
I mean, essentially, LeBron is the coach on the floor.
Brian, you'd still be looking at a roster that has, Anderson Varejao, and there's still a decent chance they wind up with Emeka Okafor. So let's just say you add Okafor to that roster at the veteran minimum. So you'd be going in with a roster of Varejao, Emeka Okafor, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, LeBron James, Mike Miller, Deion Waiters, Ray Allen, Kyrie Irving, Matthew Dellavedova, James Jones.
Well then, I guess when you start saying it, it sounds different than it feels.
It's a team that has a lot of youth and a lot of experience, and I think it's a great combination. It's not, those young guys. That's a team where it's going to probably win around 60 games. I think it'll be right around the low 60s, and maybe even mid 60s at that point. I mean, with that roster, they would be crushing teams. And and I would say not having a true center. I mean, Okafor is a true center, but not having a true center would hurt you if you're going against teams that have a dominant center like a Dwight Howard or a
Tim Duncan, even at the end of his career.
Tim Duncan's a power forward, but Varejao, you can put Varejao or Thompson or Love on him. Love's not a great defender, but like I said, you can still, dealing the splitter at the 5, you'd be okay. And San Antonio played small ball the majority of that series anyways against Miami, and they were able to crush them. A lot of times they were playing without a center, and they crushed Miami. And that was what Miami is. LeBron doesn't play well with a true center most of the time. So LeBron, in Cleveland's small ball lineup, they would be dominating teams. Absolutely dominating. With Varejao and Love at the 4 and the 5, you'd be dominating teams. It wouldn't even be close. You'd see a game against Philadelphia. At the end of the third quarter, Cleveland 103, Philadelphia 42. I think that happened last year where Philly was down by 50 points. The end of the third.
I think the Cavs were on the flip side of that once or twice last year. It was pretty bad.
I'll never forget. Though I will bring this up. When I was at the Cavaliers-Lakers game in 2000, it was when the Cavaliers were on that massive losing streak, and I think it was 2010. When it may have been January 11, and when they lost by 55 points to the Lakers, I was there and I was like, "Oh God!" I was like, "This is horrible." I remember. I was like, oh God, I want to leave early. I was like, I took off my Cavs stuff at halftime. I couldn't bear to even walk around in it.
Yeah, my experience was different. The Kobe-less Lakers got beat by the Cavs with a fresh Luol Deng on the roster, who just went to Miami. Do you like that pickup from Miami, Luol Deng down there?
I mean, here's the thing. I think Luol Deng was a great player a year ago, 2 years ago. Yeah, fantastic. Last year, though, when Chicago traded him, they didn't miss him after they traded him. Chicago actually got better without Luol Deng as the season went on last year. Cleveland was not any better with Luol than they were without him. So I really don't. I mean, he has really been used so much. It's like getting a really nice car and putting 100,000, putting 60, 70,000 miles on it a year, and the car's done after 3 years. That's essentially Luol Deng.
Dwayne Wade.
No, Dwayne Wade's had a longer career. That's the thing is Dwayne Wade is 30. Dwayne Wade is around the same age as Luol Deng, but the thing is Dwayne Wade's also got 3 rings. That's the difference. And Dwayne Wade's knees just gave out on him. There's a difference. Luol Deng has literally been, he led the league in minutes, I think 2 or 3 years in a row, playing 44 minutes a game.
Jeez.
And playing all 82 games. I mean, there's no way anybody's body's going to be able to sustain that. The kids didn't have a choice.
Yeah, and you're seeing pitchers like CC Sabathia and a few of these other inning hogs are starting to go down. Just you can't keep it up. And I guess, in that regard, I will grant you, I will acquiesce to the fact that LeBron has played in this league for a while. What is it, 11 years now? He's been resilient, he's been durable, he's been tough, he's been clutch. But you can't expect a 20 or 21 or 22 or 23-year career. This is the peak of where the best in basketball is. You gotta win now.
If you get Kevin Love, the Cavaliers will not trade for Kevin Love without getting reassurance that he'll sign. It'll be word of mouth, and he's not going to go over there and dick over LeBron and Kyrie.
All right. Let me bring up Carlos Boozer again, because this is...
This is a totally different scenario than when they got Carlos Boozer. Totally different scenario.
Explain what happened with Carlos Boozer with the Cavs. Because
Boozer had a year left on his deal. It was and then what happened is Paxson was the GM, released him, saying, okay, they had a handshake agreement saying, because you cannot, like I said, you cannot renegotiate a deal you're already in the NBA. You cannot negotiate. You cannot renegotiate. So they made him a free agent, and he went and bolted for Utah, and Cleveland didn't match the offer. He had a year left on his rookie deal, I believe what it was, and Cleveland let him go into restricted free agency, and he wound up signing a qualifying sheet with Utah, and they gave him $12 million a year. And Cleveland wasn't willing to match that.
Kevin Love is in the final year of his deal.
Uh-huh.
Handshake, my word is strong as oak, they said in Jerry Maguire.
I tend to think, here's the thing, I would not be worried at all about Kevin Love. The Cavaliers go out and get him. They're not going to be. He's not going to leave a championship. There's no better scenario he's going to go to. I'm telling you, not going to leave. It was totally, like I said, that was 2000. It was like 2005 when it happened with Boozer. I'm not even concerned about that now. This is 9 years later. This is not something I need to be worried about.
Hey, I'm just saying.
I'm telling you right now, if the Cavaliers get Kevin Love, they will probably be the leading title contenders for the next 3 to 5 years, probably 4 to 5 years. Kevin Love's 25 years old. Kyrie Irving's 22. LeBron's 29. This is your chance right now. This is your chance. So go out there. If you have to give up Wiggins in order to make this deal, then go ahead and do it. As great of a player as Andrew Wiggins is going to be, is he ready yet? No. Yet. I'm not saying he's not going to be a star. I love Andrew Wiggins. And would I prefer to give him up for Kevin Love? Absolutely not. I would much rather give up Thompson, Waiters, and Bennett for Love than give up Andrew Wiggins. That's how good Wiggins is, and I think he's going to be. He could be LeBron's Pippen. He could be the Pippen. And Scottie Pippen was a great player in his own right, even without Michael Jordan. I believe the Bulls won over 56, anywhere from 56 to 58 games the first year Jordan was gone. I mean, they were still a really, really great basketball team. And with Jordan, they were just that much better. But Scottie Pippen was a top 5 player in the NBA. All those years, he was a top 5 player in the NBA. And the thing is, if you can somehow get Love without giving up Wiggins, wow, that team will be a title contender for even longer. That'll allow LeBron at 35, 36 to go out there and play 25 minutes a night during the regular season and go out there and still have fun during the playoffs. And still be, Jordan was able to do that at 35, 36. I mean, Jordan was still winning titles at that point.
All right,
there's
all
no
right.
reason
So
LeBron, you just want him to hold up.
So if there is no way that the Cavs can get Kevin Love in this offseason because we're not going to clear the salary cap space.
There is. I put it about 1%, though, so I'm not saying what. It's not likely. I'm putting it 1%.
Because I really would like to get him for nothing. And I want to keep Wiggins.
It's not going to. But the thing is, if you're a Clevelander, you want to win a championship now. I mean, you've waited 50-something years now. It's been 50 years. Since 1964. It's been 50 years.
1964, okay? Cleveland Browns.
Go out. This is a very similar situation in 1998, after the 97 World Series, when you could have had Pedro Martinez for Jarrett Wright and Brian Giles. Cleveland didn't pull that trigger. Pedro Martinez, they would have won the World Series in 98, probably. They would have won in 99. There's a good chance they would have won in 2000 and 2001. That team would have been unstoppable. Their offense was so good, all they needed was a pitcher. And Pedro Martinez probably would have done it for them.
I don't really remember that trade.
It was on the table. It was on the table. Cleveland refused to give up Jarrett Wright in any deal.
Boy, was that a great decision. You know, and that's why people
Pedro
brought up the
Martinez,
J.J. Hickson thing. You know, but of course you're saying that wasn't on the table, and that there's the difference there.
The Pedro trade was on the table for the Indians. Everybody, John Hart even talked about it.
All right, so listen.
It was on the table, and the Cavaliers turned it down. The Indians turned it down.
We want Kevin Love. We don't want Wiggins. They want Wiggins. We're not getting rid of Wiggins. Okay. How far will we go? How far should we go? How many draft picks need to be included? What can we do to make that happen?
Here's the thing, Brian. If they go and get up their own draft picks for Kevin Love, those will be the 30th pick in the draft because they're going to be winning 60-something games a year. It will be the worst pick in the draft. It's the equivalent to almost a second-round pick at that point. Remember that. It doesn't matter how many players drafted at 30 do you see become stars? None. You know, you get the occasional really good second-round pick. You get the Lance Stevensons occasionally. You get those guys. You get the Mo Williams that are very good players. You know, but they're not stars and they're not guys who can lead a team. They're complementary pieces.
Right. Okay.
So remember that. Unless you're giving up these top 5 picks, I think the Memphis pick they have is the most valuable pick because it will wind up being a lottery pick. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. And so I'm sitting here saying to myself, you know what? You only have, you know, like I said, please LeBron now, if you want to win a championship, that's what LeBron came here to do. He came here to win. You know, yeah, this big three would be better than Miami's big three. And the surrounding roster that you have with Ray Allen and everyone would be better than the 2010 Miami Heat that lost the title in 6 games to Dallas. They'd probably be better than the 2011 Miami Heat that beat Oklahoma City too. That big three would be dominant. Bosh against Love. I take Love any day in his prime over Chris Bosh in his prime. That's one. LeBron now versus LeBron then. LeBron's a more mature player than he was 4 years ago.
He's a better player, too. And he's way more mature.
Yeah, different. Kyrie Irving and Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, his first couple of years in Miami, was unstoppable. Yeah, he had the injuries, but he was unstoppable. I'm still going to give the edge to Wade. Wade was still a top 5 player in this league. Kyrie's not a top 5 player yet. But the surrounding roster with Cleveland that you have is much better. It's much more talented. It's not just a bunch of veteran minimum guys.
Better than Juwan Howard and Greg Oden?
Yeah, and Z on his last leg.
Literally. Okay.
So if I'm the Cavaliers, and if that's the one deal, and if you know, come in a couple weeks, come in a couple months, and you need to make that deal, fine, go and get it done. But if you really want to win now, you go and get Kevin Love. If you don't want to wait 2 to 3 years, where is LeBron? We don't know what LeBron's going to be like in 2 to 3 years.
He signed a 1-year contract. He signed a 1-year contract.
I'm not expecting LeBron to leave, but at the same time, you want to please LeBron. He came here to win. You know, you're committing to winning. When you sign LeBron James, you're committing to winning. You know, the Cavaliers shouldn't even have Andrew Wiggins in the first place. They got incredibly lucky. You know, I can tell you, if the Cavaliers would have been where they were supposed to be at number 9, you wouldn't even be talking about Andrew Wiggins right now. You'd be talking about Noah Vonleh or Nick Stauskas or Doug McDermott.
And would LeBron have even come back?
Oh, you wouldn't even talk about it. Stauskas was drafted at 8. So, yeah, and that's the thing. A couple ping-pong balls essentially decided the Cavaliers. I mean, who knows about LeBron coming back? But I can tell you, with that roster and the shape it was, I don't know if he would have come back this year. I think maybe he would have opted in one more year in Miami.
So you're saying let Wiggins go? You were so high on this kid for so many years.
I still am high on Wiggins. I'm very high on Wiggins.
But for a decade, we got to keep the kid.
That's why I'm saying hold on to him for now. You do not need to trade him today. If this comes mid-season, this is dragging on, and the Cavaliers need Kevin Love to win, they're going to go and get Kevin Love. They're going to make the necessary move to do it. But I do not think a trade is imminent in the next couple of days because, I mean, it could be. Something could swing the other real fast. If a trade was imminent tonight and it was going to happen tonight, it would have already happened. And now Andrew Wiggins played in the Summer League game tonight. The Cavaliers would never have been willing to risk that if the deal was already on the table.
Right. So you have a situation then. Explain the 30-day thing. Like, Wiggins still is not technically signed, so he can be traded. But if he gets signed, you have to wait 30 days. Once he's signed,
he cannot be traded for 30 days. And like I said, I still don't know how big of a difference that makes because Wiggins is not going to wind up. Wiggins is, he's not playing in the next 30 days anyways, other than the Summer League. The season doesn't start until the end. I think Halloween. So, it doesn't matter. The Cavaliers are going to get him signed sooner or later, unless they pull the trigger on a deal very soon. But if the Cavaliers were really willing to give up Wiggins, a deal would have been done by now because Minnesota would have taken it. That's why I don't think Cleveland's very reluctant to give up Andrew Wiggins. I think I tend to think that Anthony Bennett's much more doable at this point. Dion Waiters, those are guys that you can have. But Minnesota's holding out for something better, and I don't blame them. But at the same time, Minnesota's going to eventually have to trade Love. If they hold on to him, I would be shocked. But I wouldn't be shocked, because everything that comes out of Minnesota's organization is stupidity. It's stupid move after stupid move. David Kahn, Flip Saunders, doesn't matter who's the GM there. It's just been bad move after bad move with everyone in that organization.
Yeah, I was looking at their owner was saying just as recently as today, saying that he hopes Kevin Love will stay on the Timberwolves long term.
Kevin Love's not going to pull LaMarcus Aldridge and sign. I can tell you that right now. LaMarcus Aldridge will wind up staying in Portland most likely. I'd be pretty surprised if he left. Especially because Lillard blossomed into a star last year, and they've got a nice young team in Portland that can succeed and move along. And sometimes the NBA requires patience. Look at Brooklyn. They gave up Derek Favors. They gave up Damian Lillard in order to get. They got Darren Williams for Derek Favors and a bunch of guys they traded, and Williams turned out not to be that great of a player. Favors is good. Is Favors great? No. But you gave up Damian Lillard for Gerald Wallace. And what a stupid trade that was. They could have had Wallace in the offseason. Brooklyn's the one who really bit the bullet, and they just made some stupid moves because Prokhorov wanted to win now. And that's the problem. They weren't ready to win a championship. Cleveland is ready to win a championship. That's the difference between a team like Brooklyn and Cleveland.
Because there's only 5 players on the court at the same time for your team in basketball. So one player makes that much more of a difference. LeBron is clearly the best in his game, and his game translates so well to sharing and making every other player on that team better. When you have LeBron, you are competing for a championship if you have decent pieces. If you can get really, really good pieces or great pieces, you become a favorite to win the championship. Am I kind of breaking this down?
I'm not going to sit here and cry if the Cavaliers give up Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love. I don't like it, but at the same time, if you need to go out and get Kevin Love now, go out and get him. The guy's 25. And here's how I look at it anyways. The Cavaliers, going into the night of the lottery, were Kyrie Irving basically a Noah Vonleh away from being where they are now to being, probably a pretty mediocre to bad basketball.
And we didn't know if Kyrie was going to resign. We were wondering if there were grumblings that he was going to leave.
Exactly. You didn't even know how much longer you were going to have Kyrie for. So you're looking at it now. You're looking at a night, going into that lottery that night, you're looking, okay, well, the Cavaliers could be without Kyrie, and all of a sudden you're looking at, you're looking and you say, okay, let's shoot this to him 2 months later. Okay, suddenly this is a team with Kyrie, LeBron, and Kevin Love. Not in my wildest dreams would you have ever told me that was going to happen like that.
That's fair enough.
That's how you have to look at it. If the Cavaliers went up with Kevin Love, so be it. They were lucky to win the lottery anyway. It's not like they earned the number 1 last year. They won 33 games.
Yeah, they're very middle of the road.
If anything, they deserve a Noah Vonleh. And this is no shot at Noah. He's a good player. But I'm saying they did not deserve a player like like Andrew Wiggins. They won the lottery. They got really, really lucky. And they won the lottery, and they got him. And like I said, and I think the whole Embiid injury is a blessing in disguise, because Embiid would have never fit with LeBron. And if the Cavaliers would have taken Embiid, I don't know if LeBron would be here right now. I really don't.
A healthy Embiid, you're saying?
Well, a healthy Embiid would have been traded for Kevin Love in day 1. I can tell you that right now. He would have been traded for Kevin Love in day 1. Embiid and LeBron just does not play well with the center. With the big classic center. That's not LeBron's MO. LeBron plays much better in small ball lineups. He would play much better along with a guy like Wiggins or Parker than he would with Joel Embiid. So I can tell you Embiid would have been traded for Love day 1.
Day 1. Boom. Done.
Day 1. Yeah. He would have been gone.
Is that a Gilbert call or is that a Griffin call? Like when you hire him, is he calling the shots, or he's got to check in with Dad before he?
No, I tend to think David Griffin's the one calling the shots. Here's the thing with Chris Grant. Chris Grant was 100% calling the shots, and I had no faith in Chris Grant. I would have rather Dan Gilbert go and drafting those guys than Chris Grant.
Jeez.
Chris Grant made some big mistakes. I've discussed him on the show 100 times of all of his mistakes. Whether it was passing on, like I said, I was in love with Andre Drummond, but at the time I said, if you're going to take a risk, I'll never forget saying that night, and I remember tweeting when the Cavaliers took Chandler's, I said, that's a move that could cripple the Cavaliers franchise. by taking Deion Waiters. You do not take a risk on a shooting guard at 4. You take that risk on the big-time center with all the potential in the world. Andre Drummond would have been a perfect fit for the Cavs, and he's going to be a really, really nasty player in this league. He's a really good player. And, he was just raw in college. He was very raw. He committed to UConn late, didn't get a lot of playing time. I thought he needed a second year there, but at the same time, he was a guaranteed lottery pick. And either he was going to blossom or he wasn't. So he made the right move by coming out. He really did.
And that's you're kind of making me think here. We just got a tweet from Greg Moore, one of my buddies. He said, "I say we make the trade, go for the guaranteed talent." Kind of like you were saying in college. If you're ready, should you stay an extra year? Trying to figure that thing out.
Like I said, Greg isn't wrong. What Greg just tweeted, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. But like I said, this is not a move that needs to be made today. You're still 3 months away.
But what I'm saying is, what if the Warriors go up and offer whatever it is Minnesota wants and they pull the trigger?
Then fine. You go and do it. But like I said, if Golden State was going to offer Klay Thompson and David Lee, they would have done it already. They haven't done it yet. If Golden State really wanted Kevin Love, they would do it because they know the Cavaliers' trade chips are better than theirs. The Cavaliers have 4 trade chips and a bunch of picks to offer. That's the difference. The Cavaliers have a bunch of first-round picks, and they've got Tristan Thompson, Deion Waiters, Anthony Bennett, and Andrew Wiggins. They have 4 trade chips, while Golden State has 1 superior trade chip in Klay Thompson, and David Lee is just a heavy contract that would need to be going in there, too. David Lee's a stat sheet stuffer, and that's it. He's a fantasy basketball player, and that's what David Lee is.
So if we play it cool and drag this out, we sign Andrew Wiggins, so that 30-day thing kicks in, whatever, who cares? And we say we're going to drag this out. Say the season starts, and within the first couple of weeks, something happens, and the Warriors make that move. They actually offer whatever it is the T-Wolves are asking for. The Cavs don't match. How big of a screw-up would that be if we lost the opportunity to get that for Wiggins? Or could that be another blessing in disguise,
Here's the deal, anyways. You can trade Wiggins for anybody in the NBA you want, basically. If you want a player in the NBA right now, you can go and move him for him. You can basically go and get whoever you want, other than a Blake Griffin, from LA. But there are plenty of players in this league who you can have right now for Andrew Wiggins straight up. I'm telling you that right now. Almost any young player you want in this league, you can have because for Andrew Wiggins. From a struggling team. If you want DeMarcus Cousins tomorrow from Sacramento, you can go and get him for Andrew Wiggins if you want him. There are plenty of good young players that will be available, and that can help you win a ring if Kevin Love is not there.
So then
there are great players in this league, other than Kevin Love.
Okay, so there are other great players in this league with names other than Kevin Love. So then, couldn't the Cavs, through LeBron James, put pressure on Kevin Love to get the Timberwolves to pull the trigger with the Cavs, with maybe Bennett or with Waiters or with a pick or two or something?
They could, but like we said, Minnesota basically knows they're not going to retain him at the end of the year. They're going to try to do everything they can to keep him. And someone tweeted earlier at me too, which was kind of, and I almost was annoyed by it, reading it, going, Kevin Love's just a stat sheet suffer. Minnesota stunk last year. They won 40 games and they lost a record number of NBA games last year by 1 point. I don't know what the exact number was, but it was high. They collapsed late in the games. It's not Kevin Love's fault. That's still a team that won 40 games because of Kevin Love. Without Kevin Love, they might win 17 games.
Whoa,
Maybe I'll give them
that
22
many.
wins. I'll give them 22.
That many?
Yeah. They're a really bad team without Kevin Love. They're a very... Like I said, there was a team that last year they lost a... Don't forget last year they lost a 1-point game to the Cavs at Quicken Loans Arena at the beginning of the year last year. They were down 23 going into the fourth quarter, and they came back and almost beat them. They missed Kevin Martin when missed the last second shot. That was it. They had a lot of bad 1-point losses last year that could have easily been wins. You turn it around 1 year later, that suddenly Minnesota could be a 50-win team this year.
But
and they played a tough Western Conference too.
But that's what I mean with Love. He's kind of said what he's saying, but he could probably turn the trade market toxic and put pressure on the T-Wolves to get this done now, or else maybe he could pull some leverage. As the Cavs try to wrestle with the Timberwolves, Kevin Love is in the middle of it, and he could tilt this big time if he plays his cards right behind the scenes and says, "Listen, I'm not."
But the thing is, though, it all depends on what LeBron wants. If LeBron wants his deal, done by training camp. It'll be done by training camp. If that's what he wants, that's what it'll be. He's already reached out to Kevin Love, wants to play with him. You know, like I said, Cleveland's potential big three was better than what Miami had to offer. That was also one of the reasons LeBron came back. It also had to do with LeBron coming home, but at the same time, too, getting to play with Kyrie and Love, having that potential to play with those two guys, and the surrounding cast of a bunch of young guys, was definitely intriguing to LeBron, whether it was Cleveland or not. I'll say that right now. I've been saying that all year. If Cleveland had the potential to go and move and get Kevin Love or go and get another star, that they would do it to lure LeBron. I was surprised they didn't trade it after, you know, before the draft, but I didn't think Love wouldn't make any commitments without LeBron there. With LeBron, he's making a commitment that he said he would stay.
He's intrigued. He's intrigued. I don't like that he's not under contract.
Brian, I'm telling you right now, I would not panic, and you know me. I'm one who would panic sometimes. I'm not panicking here.
Fair enough. So we will both panic from time to time. We wear our hearts on our sleeves, you could say. No, I just that situation makes me uncomfortable. You've been doing a hell of a job. I'll give you credit. You've been doing a hell of a job trying to swing my ideas of the Love for Wiggins trade.
The Cavs time is now, though, especially with Indiana being hit with, you know, they don't have Lance Stevenson anymore. The power shifted from Indiana being that number 1 or 2 team in the Eastern Conference. It's now Cleveland and the Bulls. That's it in the East. It's Cleveland and Chicago right now in the East.
Those
are the two superior teams in the East that are going to knock everybody out of the water.
Then let's talk about the Bulls, because I interrupted you when we were talking about Pau Gasol. Ultimately, why do you think Pau went there? Is it just people don't like playing with Kobe, whether it's Dwight Howard or whether it's Shaq?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think Pau wants to win at this stage of his career with Kobe. You know, they just drafted Julius Randle. You know, Pau was done. He was done in LA. It was either go to New York, go to Oklahoma City, go to San Antonio, or go to Chicago. And out of the 4 of those teams, he made I can't say he made the exact right move, because with San Antonio, I think they would have been one of the greatest teams ever assembled if you would have added Pau to that roster.
And you see these
front court, where they would have had their new Twin Towers.
Yeah, and you see the Spurs, you know, and Dirk Nowitzki, all these people taking real big discounts to try to build teams around him. You know,
but Pau made a very good basketball move. You know, he's in a big time market. You know, he can now mentor, you know, Spanish League. You know, he's a Spanish League MVP, Nikola Mirotic. You know, you can mentor him now. He's 22 years old. Kid has the potential to be a star in the NBA. You know, down the road, not this year, but down the road. And when looking at that, Chicago, you know, if you get a healthy Rose back, they're only going to team that can win 60 games next year. You know, I'm not saying Derrick Rose is going to be 100%. I don't know if he ever will be. Last year he didn't look amazing, but, you know, he was a gym rat the year before, and, you know, he really worked on his rehab, really long hours. So, you know, Derrick and the Bulls, they could come storming right back. With a front court of Noah and Gasol, it's going to be real tough. Gasol's fantastic in the post, had a great year last year. And adding a three-point shooter like Doug McDermott is huge for that team. Huge. I love McDermott. I can tell you right now, the Bulls, if he come out a year ago, the Bulls would have taken him in the first round over Tony Snell a year ago. He was on their radar a year ago. The Bulls wanted him really badly. I can tell you that right now. They wanted him real badly. And the fact that he stayed in school kind of messed up their plans a little bit.
And then there he is.
Yep.
Right now.
Although I tend to think Cleveland would have gone and swooped and gotten him last year at 15 or 16, wherever they were sitting. I tend to think Cleveland would have grabbed McDermott last year at 16, over Karasev if that was the issue, if that was the deal. Because I know Cleveland liked him too, but I know Chicago was fascinated with McDermott.
Speaking of
there
Cleveland,
was no secret. No secret.
Well, speaking of Cleveland and late first-round picks, any thoughts on getting rid of Tyler Zeller?
They did what they had to do. You get LeBron out of it. I mean, here's the thing: if they would have lost Karasev, the first-round pick, and Tyler Zeller for nothing, it would have been bad. It would have been real bad.
Yeah, and that's kind of what kept me staying at 95% certain the whole time, saying, no. They're calling the shots behind the scenes. There's no way they're doing this just in case. And
they knew what was going on. There was no way at that point. Like I said, I started even second guessing myself too. I was going, okay, there's no way they just did that. They're not going to wind up with LeBron. I go, And then a couple days rolling by, and then you're hearing about the racist letter. It was never racially charged, but like I said, I believe Gilbert's the last person that would say something racist. I really do. I don't think he would say something racist at all. He's not stupid enough. He's a very bright guy. He's not willing to risk his entire company, the team he owns, over something that people are just trying to speculate that was a racist letter, because it wasn't. I'll defend him on that one, because I can tell you right now, yeah, he's made some bad moves over the past few years with the Cavs, and the letter was not a good idea. But I can tell you right now, it was not racially charged. It was in the moment. He said some things, and that's what it was. He apologized to LeBron for it, and it's over with. It was because ESPN
and LeBron said,
any
"We met face to face, man to man. Who am I to hold a grudge?"
Exactly. And I said the whole time that people would get over the letter. I've been saying it for a couple of years. The letter, I didn't think was a defining factor. It's a letter. People say stuff when they get angry. I've said way worse stuff than what Dan Gilbert said in that letter to my friends when I've gotten in fights with them. Way worse.
Really?
And it's a forgive and forget. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
things happen. Nobody's perfect.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect. LeBron wasn't perfect on that night either, and he knows. He went and apologized to Dan for the decision. People make mistakes. If you're willing to be the bigger person and accept an apology and willing to apologize, okay, it should be forgiven. There shouldn't be an issue. And like I said, LeBron's camp wasn't feeding ESPN any inside information, and that was the issue, and ESPN didn't know what was going on. It was all speculation on their part. That was the issue. SI was the one holding all the cards, and you didn't see them tweeting out anything. Chris Mannix even said he was going back to the Miami Heat, and Chris Mannix is from SI. Lee Jenkins, didn't even tweet. Lee Jenkins is the basketball writer, and I should have just looked at it during. I never put the pieces together, going, okay, Lee Jenkins is the one holding the card, because he hasn't said anything in a week. And Lee Jenkins is one of the best writers out there. He's great on Twitter, and he didn't say anything for a week about it. He was not speculating on the LeBron thing one bit. So it goes to show you that he had the inside info.
That whole plan was just that thing was really crafted and executed marvelously. It really was to think about it. LeBron said nothing publicly, which is the best thing. The exact opposite.
And I think the way he handled this free agency was 100 times better than the last one. You see, the way Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh couldn't even say a bad word about the guy after he left. It was Dwayne Wade said, "I'm happy for him. He made the right decision
for his
family. He did what he had to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. He did what he had to do. And if in 2010 it was a completely different scenario. But if LeBron would have won multiple championships in Cleveland, their window would have been closed. He went to greener pastures. Okay, he would have left like he did. Okay, I don't even think I would have been able to fault him. I would have said, okay, you know what? It was nice having LeBron. Those were a great 7 years of basketball. We won a couple of rings. Fantastic. I would have said, okay, let him go. We had him long enough. Hopefully we get him back someday. But let him go where he can win some rings now. And let's get the rebuild going on here. So we can try to get him back 4 years later. But that didn't happen. He handled his free agency as bad as can be last time. Not just screwing over the Cavaliers, screwed over the Bulls in free agency, screwed over the Knicks, he screwed over a lot of teams, the Nets. It was a really bad scenario last time. And this time, he met with teams purely. Rich Paul met with teams purely based on a basketball decision. It wasn't all market based. Like I said, it was a lot of this time I'd been mentioning Phoenix. I had always mentioned Phoenix, not that they would actually get LeBron, but they were a great team. I said if LeBron really wants to win and bring Carmelo with him, he'd go to Phoenix. Because they had the room to go bring both of them in. They had Bledsoe and Dragic. That team would have been disgusting. The team would have been absolutely unstoppable. But LeBron wanted to come home. He didn't want to play in Phoenix. He didn't want to play in Houston. Another good basketball situation for him would have been in Houston. But that didn't. Although I don't love him playing with Dwight Howard. I didn't love him playing with Howard. But I think that LeBron made his move because Cleveland does have a lot of potential with the roster. They have a lot of flexibility, and it's also home. LeBron really only considered Cleveland Miami. I think he took the other meetings just to see, and Rich Paul took them. But basically the whole time, and like I said before, I told you it was only Cleveland or Miami. I told you that the whole time. There were only two teams he was going to. It wasn't, I said always a third was the long shot, were the LA Clippers, who I threw out there too. Which if they would have been able to clear space and the whole thing with Donald Sterling didn't happen.
Oh, the Sterling thing, look back on that now. That was a possibility. That was an outside shot. But then again, the West is so tough.
But playing with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, they would have won that conference. I'm telling you, they would have won that conference. LeBron and Chris Paul together would have probably they would have been dominant. Adding Blake Griffin to that mix, ooh. I don't even know.
Harlem Globetrotter style.
That would have been fun to watch. That's all I can say. That would have been fun to watch.
Well, look, it's going to be fun to watch in Cleveland this year, and it's
going to be very fun to watch.
Tried your damnedest convincing me that we should trade Wiggins.
Like I said, you know how much I love Wiggins. I'm one of Andrew Wiggins' biggest fans. I'm not going to say I'm his biggest fan, but I'm one of his biggest fans. He's one of the best. Like I said, he was the best prospect I had seen of the players I've ever scouted. He was the best player I've ever seen. And I don't mean he was the best player I've ever seen. His potential was the best I've ever seen. After watching the Hoop Summit game 3 years ago, he was the best I'd ever seen. And I said to myself after I go, and you know how I said on the show last year how the Cavaliers won the lottery in the wrong year with Anthony.
Right.
It's too bad they couldn't won this. It's too bad they couldn't have won last year to get Anthony Davis, or this year to get to get Andrew Wiggins. But they somehow managed to get Wiggins out of it. And I am so happy they didn't take Jabari Parker, and I'm very happy they didn't go and take Joel Embiid. So Wiggins is the guy.
Do you think? Had him pegged. I mean, I guess Jabari Parker wasn't going to be a fit in Cleveland with LeBron. They play the same position.
The problem is Parker doesn't have a position. That's the problem. Jabari Parker really doesn't have a true position.
A tweener?
He's not a tweener. He's a terrible defender. He's a scorer, is what he is. He's a scorer.
A Carmelo Anthony.
He can be a Carmelo type, yes.
Yeah, and UFC is MMA. He's going to say, if Zach brings up that damn Nike Hoop Summit one more time. But, I mean, Anthony Bennett wasn't on people's radar for 2 years. Andrew Wiggins was. LeBron was for 4 years.
I had seen Bennett last year at UNLV, or 2 years ago. No, I'm sorry, it was 2 years ago. And I remember saying to myself when I first saw him play, I go, wow, this kid's a lottery pick. Did I peg him at number 1? Absolutely not. But I did say to myself, I go, all right, this kid's a guaranteed top 5 pick in the draft. I said that to myself. I knew it. I knew very well after looking at him he was a top 5 pick in the draft. There was no doubt in my mind he was going to be a top 5 pick after watching him in game 1.
Yeah, but at the same token, he was not. He was not what LeBron was in high school with ESPN going to his high school games.
It was never even comparable. Oladipo didn't have it. No one had that in that draft last year. No one did.
And for that matter, though, what I'm saying though is Andrew Wiggins has had not that same level of what LeBron had. Nobody's ever seen that much hype coming into the league before, and maybe never will. But Andrew Wiggins was definitely on the radar more than, that's a lottery pick. That's a top. That might be a top 5.
It was like Anthony Davis. All year you knew he was going to from day one when he stepped on that court. You kind of knew he was going to be the number 1 overall pick.
And that's what you kind of had with Andrew Wiggins.
Originally, it was supposed to be Harrison Barnes. And the day Davis's first game in Kentucky, he said, okay, Harrison Barnes, move out of the driver's seat. This is Anthony Davis. It's the Davis show. It's not even close. He's by far the best prospect in this draft. Everybody wants him. It's not even close. How much better he was than everybody else. You look at the number 2 pick in Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and Bradley Beal. Davis is on a whole other level. Davis. There's a good chance Davis wins an MVP award in the next 2 to 3 years, and he's 21. He's that good.
There's a lot of youth in this league, but it's crazy to think that LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and Carmelo, that these guys are 11 years into the league. Like we're going through the twilight phase. We just watched Derek Jeter walk away from the game in the All-Star game. He's halfway through in his final hurrah away. I mean, it's interesting when you compare generational players, is what I'm saying. And there is a lot of youth, whether it's Anthony Davis or Kyrie Irving. There's a lot of talented players, the Damian Lillards, that it's going to be real interesting to see this league in 4 and 5 years. Real interesting to see this.
It's going to be very interesting. It's going to see, you're going to see the separation of superstars. You're going to see where Wiggins and Parker are, and these guys where they're going to be in a couple of years, where the Joel Embiids are. It's, this is a very talented draft class. You could, like I said, there's a potential to have 8 or 9 All-Stars out of this class. I'm not saying there will be, but there's that potential where there could easily be 8 or 9 All-Stars.
Where there was not that potential last year. And I brought up Jabari Parker asking you about this. Do you think Jabari Parker and John Calipari might be rethinking their decision to Calipari just said no. He turned down 10 years, $80 million, which is a ton.
I think at the time, though, I don't think Calipari...
And Jabari tanked.
I don't think Calipari thought at the time that the Cavaliers had any shot at LeBron. Don't forget, Miami was still, it was before Miami was in the finals at that point, before they had been obliterated by the Spurs. You know, I think a lot of stuff changed within a couple weeks, within a couple of days even. And, you know, the Cavaliers made their move, and I think David Blatt's a better hire than Calipari. Giving Calipari all that power and that much money was a bad mistake.
Blatt's coming in real cheap, all things considered.
I think Blatt's going to do a hell of a job in Cleveland. I'll tell you that right now. But getting back to it, you know, before I have to go in a few minutes, but just saying, if you look at it, the Cavaliers, you know, made a lot of mistakes, and everything wound up in their favor. Dan Gilbert can be considered the luckiest man on earth.
Yeah, there should be a commercial like comparing the most interesting man in the world versus the luckiest man in the world. There should be like a Dan Gilbert Dos Equis commercial.
It's something about lotteries with Dan Gilbert. I mean, the guy always wins the lottery.
He runs a casino. Hey, you know, forget about it.
Now as of today, they're talking about building phase 2 of that casino now downtown. And suddenly the plans are in the works, are being pitched to the city. Construction can start soon now.
Did you see that new project getting the green light for what is that, for Public Square? It's like a $50 million.
And then there's another one too. They were talking about the Ferrari building, but Ferrari shot that one down. As of right now, it's nothing. But I mean, there's plenty of new projects going on in downtown Cleveland right now. I mean, it's a city that's, there's a bunch of new hotels opening up, new apartments, everything. So it's a city that's really on the rise. It's no longer the crappy Rust Belt town with a bunch of closed storefronts. It's not what it is anymore. There's new restaurant openings. There's all these new neighborhoods, and these neighborhoods that were basically just. You go to a place like Ohio City when I was in high school, 8-9 years ago. Go to Ohio City, go to the hookah bar in high school, and it was run down. You had to watch yourself in the back of that parking lot when you would park at night. Now everything there's just bar after bar, restaurant after restaurant. Same with Tremont. There's, the Detroit Shoreway, Gordon Square. There's all there's Hingetown. There's all these areas in Cleveland now that are just booming areas downtown in itself, and it's really nice to see where it's coming.
And it's nice to know that LeBron coming back. That means a great deal. That the whole region is going to be boosted by this.
And when the Republicans came to check it out before they got the RNC, they said we expected Cleveland to be more like Detroit, more Detroit than Chicago. And we got here, it was more Chicago than Detroit.
Hell yeah!
It was, it's a city that, like I said, it's like I said, Cleveland doesn't have the retail right now downtown. All the retail got in Beachwood out in the suburbs. All the good shopping's out on the east side of town. But that doesn't mean Cleveland, right now in phase 2 of the lake, of the flats is going up right now. You've got the lakefront getting ready to go up soon. There's all these new projects going on downtown, all these new hotels again, apartments, everything. Cleveland is, it's a city on the rise. It's a city that I wish would have happened 25 years ago. I wish they would have started doing this.
Exactly. Hey, you know what? I'm with you on that. And let's not forget the Indians are playing 500 ball, and you just had Joe Hayden out there challenging, saying that the race is on. Will the Browns win a title before the Cavs?
Cleveland's got 3 competitive teams for the first time since 2007.
And for the people that say, the Browns only won 4 games, trust me, this team is going to crush it this year.
They're not a 4-win football team, and I'm not saying that as an optimistic Browns fan. I'm usually pretty pessimistic about the Browns. I'm usually pretty realistic.
Yeah, and the Josh Gordon thing does not help, and we're not expecting Manziel to be the quarterback, but still.
I have faith in the Browns because they will be a decent football team. They're a team on the rise.
Yeah.
The Indians are competitive. The Indians are 3 games out of a wild card spot right now.
Hey, they're sitting 500 at the All-Star break like they always are, and then they get hot the second half of the year. I've seen this story from them before. Yeah,
and
exactly.
The Cavaliers are suddenly the best team in the East again. So, things are turning around for the city, and it's looking positive in every light right now. So, I'm happy to see it firsthand. It's pretty cool to see. When I'm in Cleveland, it's definitely cool to see. When I'm and when I'm in other cities too. I travel all the time, and I can tell you, I can say, okay, well, I like this city more than Cleveland. I think Cleveland's a better city than this city. I'm literally all over the country. I was in Indianapolis this year, and I said to myself, I go, wow, this is a really nice city, but their downtown is a total of 3 blocks. It's really nice and clean, but their downtown was 3 blocks.
It is very clean, and it's very boring. They put
it's nice, but
they put a
it's not on any.
Yeah, they put a NAM convention there, and they always had them in Nashville and Anaheim and Austin, Texas, and they came to Indianapolis. It's like, what the heck are we doing here?
I was there right around the time of the Big Ten tournament, and I can tell you right now for myself, seeing it, and I was like, this is a city with a lot of, it's a very Midwestern city. It reminded me of a smaller version of Columbus is what it was. And,
a little less character, a little cleaner, and a little more boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And a little safer.
It was very safer. There wasn't a lot to do, but it was very nice.
And safe. It felt safer than, a lot of parts of Cleveland or
Cleveland. The thing is, though, Cleveland has a ton of culture. You can go to a bunch of different neighborhoods. Cleveland has tons of different neighborhoods. There's a third, according to, I don't know if it was Forbes or what it was, but Cleveland is the number 3 rated Little Italy in the country. I mean, Cleveland has a lot of really nice neighborhoods. It's, I wouldn't even call them nice. It's cool cultural neighborhoods. Because of the people, the immigrants that came over. Cleveland was a city filled with immigrants. That came over here in the early 1900s all the way up through the 50s and the 60s. It's always been a city full of immigrants. And it's created some really cool neighborhoods in Cleveland. So, I used to bash Cleveland. When I lived in LA, I used to bash it. When I moved back east and I was coming to Cleveland, I said to myself, okay, the city's not bad anymore. I really can't sit here and rip on it. I actually enjoy going out when I'm home. I can go out. I can go to a bar. Ohio City's packed every night of the week. The only thing is I hate the weather back east, but it's not just Cleveland. It's Chicago. It's New York. The weather in the wintertime is just brutal.
Yeah, and that's what LeBron's leaving. He's leaving the heat for the Clee.
But Miami's brutal in the summer, and it's disgusting, so...
All right.
But I'll be in Miami. I can say I'll be in Miami in 2 weeks from. I think 2 weeks from tomorrow. I'll be in Miami. And I can tell you, I'm going to be wearing my LeBron jersey on the plane just to piss people off. I just want to get people's reactions down there. I've hated the Heat for 4 years now.
You would be that guy. See, I was going to say, if you go down there in the hotel...
I'll be wearing my LeBron jersey on the plane in 2 weeks.
You would be that guy. I would say, when you go to the hotel, Zach, don't even take the shampoo or the hand lotion or the soap. Like, we've already taken enough from Miami. Don't even take the shampoo. Just leave it in the hotel room.
I will make sure, though, that I will be wearing that in the airport. It's unfortunate I'm flying to Fort Lauderdale, not Miami, but I will, because it just... But because I just I like Fort Lauderdale a lot better than flying to Miami. It's only a 30-minute drive. But I will be in Miami all week, and I will be wearing my LeBron jersey to South Beach. I will make sure of it.
And we need to make sure that it's on our radar that we figure out if or when we're doing a Browns game, if or when we're doing something at Staples, whether it's the Clippers or the Lakers. We got to make sure we.
Well, I got my trip booked to LA already in September. I'm coming from a Monday, and then I'm taking the red eye back Saturday night to come into the Browns game for Cleveland. So it worked out perfectly. I managed because I got tickets for both of those games for the home opener and the next game. I've got season tickets, but I managed to work it so I didn't have to be in LA for as much as I wanted to go back and see all my friends and go back for 2 weeks. I was like, it's the beginning of football season. I got to be there for these games.
I know there's kind of nothing like it, and you saw kind of the foreshadowing with Dante Whitner. They call him Dante Hittner, coming in from the 49ers, saying, "I want to play in my home city. I want to play in my home state. I want to do this for Cleveland." And you saw it with Dante Whitner. That was a pretty big free agent signing to replace T.J. Ward when he went over to the Broncos, and you went, "Oh man, this is pretty cool." Where the hometown boy comes home and represents.
It's nice too, and a lot of, and this I will say this right now, a lot of Browns fans have had a lot of problem with the players over the last few years. With these idiots going, you have Phil Taylor, Josh Gordon, you have these guys that are partying with the Miami Heat after they won the championship a year ago. And it's not only, you can't just shut up about it. It's the fact that they're sitting there bragging about it, talking about how much how they're such big Heat fans. Not one of these guys is from Miami. Other than Travis Benjamin, he's the only one I'm not going to give crap to.
Yeah, you can understand.
The guy's from Miami, and he can deservedly so be a Miami Heat fan. I would not fault him for that. And I can say, though, that these guys are rubbing it in the fans' faces. I mean, it was ridiculous what Josh Gordon and those guys were doing. And now suddenly they're all going to sit back and be Cavs fans, which almost pisses me off even more. But I really don't care in the fact that at least the fans will be on the same level as the players, and you'll see the players not hating the Cavs anymore, ripping on them. It's got to be a united front. You got to be in agreement with your fans. I'm not saying to be a Cavs fan. I'm not saying if I moved to Denver tomorrow, it would not make me a Nuggets fan, a Broncos fan, or a Rockies fan at all. but I'm not going to sit there and constantly rip on those teams. I didn't do it when I was in L.A. I enjoyed watching the Dodgers when I was out there. They're still my National League team. The Cubs will never be my National League team. The Mets will never be my National League team. It'll always be the Dodgers. It'll always be my NL team.
And that's exactly what I'm.
The competition.
That's exactly what I'm hoping. I went to that Indians-Dodgers game when the Indians won. I think we smoked them like 10-3.
Although I did hate the Lakers, but there was many reasons why I hated the Lakers.
Same here. But I watch those Indians-Dodger games. I hope this is a preview for the World Series, man. I was
an LA Kings fan too. I love the Kings.
I couldn't give a crap about hockey, but I was happy for them.
I love the Kings, but I can tell you right now, if LA had another football team, I wouldn't even touch them. I wouldn't even watch them. It wouldn't even matter to me. Like I said, the Browns are the only team I care about in the NFL.
I would certainly love to see an NFL football team that is not stolen from another city come to Los Angeles. That'd be fantastic.
Well, if it comes from Jacksonville, which isn't happening now because Jacksonville's pumping a ton of money in their stadium, so getting Jackson, I tend to think if they get the St. Louis Rams, it's not something I would. If they get the St. Louis Rams, it's not something I would be upset about.
Maybe I could.
Looking from the outside of it.
That's LeBron James returning home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Georgia
Rams are from there.
Moved the St. Louis Rams. Georgia Frontier moved the St. Louis Rams back from L.A. to St. Louis when her husband died. She was from Ladue. Moved the team back to St. Louis, and she did what she had to do. I mean, L.A. wasn't supporting the team in the sense, but the way football is looked at nowadays, the popularity is totally different than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. 20 years ago when they moved, I believe they moved in '94. So it is completely different than it was 20 years ago. In St. Louis is a baseball town. It's baseball, then hockey, then football. Football's the tertiary sport in St. Louis. It just is. Cleveland was always the Browns, and then what other team was good? Either the Cavs or the Indians. What other team was great? And that's what team they always fought. It was always 2 out of the 3 in Cleveland. It still is like that.
I still go for all 3. I've played all those sports. It didn't last too long in baseball, made it to like the minor league, major league thing, and I kind of bumped up to the level before I was ready. So I kind of just jumped above my pay grade and went, okay, I'm out. Football I did excel at, and basketball I was good on an intramural team. I was a role player, but I was solid, and we won our championship.
I love all 3 sports. I grew up loving the Cavs, Indians, the Browns. I loved them all, and it didn't matter to me. It was tough to watch any of those teams, and they're bad. But the Browns are the ones I always watched all 16 games a year. Probably because there were only 16 games a year.
Hey, no. We're gonna have 17 games, and then we're gonna have 18 games, and then was it 19 to win the title if you get the bye week? Is that how it works?
If you get the bye.
All right, so 19 games I will watch this year. Let's get the numbers right.
Okay.
I give the same prediction for the Browns every year. Undefeated, championship, Cinderella story. I always expect that it's going to be that, because why not? What city's been more downtrodden than us? What city's had more bounces go the exact wrong way than us? I will take an undefeated season because it takes a lot of luck.
Like I said, this is why, getting back to the Cavs, and this is why, if you want your title this year, you go out and you make the move for Kevin Love. Like I said, I love Wiggins. I do. But at the same time, if that's what it takes to get Kevin Love is 25. He's not 35. He's not even 30. He's 25. He's right in the middle of the peak of his career. If you have to give up Wiggins, you do it. I'd prefer not to if I were the Cavaliers. I'd prefer to give up those other 3 guys who I mentioned, preferably Bennett and Waiters. But if it's not possible and you have to give up Wiggins, which I don't think it will be mid-season, but, like I said, it can go anyway. So,
I think you're right, because I've been torn on this where LeBron says, I know it's going to be a process, and I'm not guaranteeing a championship. I know how hard that is. And then he says something like, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have it in front of me, but he said, this is going to be a long process. It's going to take a little bit of time. That's why I'm wondering if he wants to get the Andrew Wiggins some experience as you have.
I tend to think the thing is, if you go in there with Love, Kyrie, Wiggins, and LeBron, then suddenly you're looking at a team where, like I said, Wiggins would be that 4th option. You don't need him to blossom into anything more than that for the time being. All you need is him to be an elite defender and a guy who can get in the paint, and go and clobber the rim. And that's what you would need out of Wiggins. So like I said, if you don't have to give Wiggins, you're looking at a team that would be almost completely unfair to the entire rest of the NBA. You really would be.
Well, okay, so then,
5-6 year period.
If you're expecting Anthony Bennett to have a big season? Is it basically Bennett and Dion and some picks, or Wiggins, period? Or are they going to want Wiggins and Bennett?
I think it'd be Wiggins and Bennett. You need to make the salary work out, so Haywood would be included in the deal too. There's the thing is, if anybody wants to play around with this, ESPN Trade Machine is the way to go. You can see what works, matching up salaries. That's always the way to go with it. I don't know if it's updated right now with the updated rosters, but that's the way to go if you want to go and see how these salaries match.
ESPN Trade Machine.
Yes.
Okay.
I got to get going now. It's starting to get late over here.
Rock on. Hey, final question. Final question. Eric Bledsoe, Phoenix Suns. He's not signing. He turned down, 4 years, $48 million. He wants 5 years, $80. What do you think is going to happen there? Final question.
I tend to think that here's another possibility that another team that might come into play. Houston. In what way? Because they got shut out of the whole Carmelo. Well, here's what happened. A lot of teams were not going after Eric Bledsoe because they thought Phoenix was going to match. Now Phoenix might be reluctant to match any offer now that if any team's going to offer Bledsoe $16 million a year. Bledsoe's worth a lot of money. He's a really, really, really good player. So I don't know what team's going to offer Bledsoe yet. I tend to think someone's going to come in and swoop him up and offer him the money. Phoenix now has Isaiah Thomas. They also drafted Tyler Ennis. Bledsoe's a little bit expendable for that roster now in Phoenix. I don't know how much they need him. So,
I know it was final question, but final for real question. There are also possibilities that the Cavs could bring in a third team to work a 3-team trade to give the T-Wolves some assets they're looking for and find a way to tweak other things with a third team. Is that likely possible? Because you just kind of
I think it's highly possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's definitely possible. I think a team like the problem is Philadelphia would love to get involved so they can get some extra picks, but the problem is Philadelphia only has one tradable asset, and that's Thaddeus Young.
Right.
That's the issue with Philly. So
yeah, they're definitely doing a stockpiling of picks over there.
They're going to trade Embiid or Noel. I don't think, who knows, they might trade Michael Carter-Williams. I don't think they trade Dario Saric. They have four young guys they're building around right now. And they're going to keep going and drafting more and more. Philadelphia, who knows, they could wind up landing Jahlil Okafor in the next draft. So who knows what's going to happen with Philly.
Well, and that's the beauty of it. Give it a week, Zach.
I tend to think another team I'm going to say is a surprise for Eric Bledsoe. I'm going to throw it out there right now, the Milwaukee Bucks. Watch out for them with Eric Bledsoe.
New owner.
He'd be a perfect fit in Milwaukee with those young guys.
New owner looking to make a splash, exactly. But that's what I was saying, though. This is the beauty of NBA basketball, man. 2 weeks ago, you would have never thought LeBron would be on the Cavs. A week from now, who knows where Bledsoe will be? Who knows if we've traded for Love, if we've kept Wiggins? Because really, the T-Wolves' hand is not that strong.
When we were July 4th, I said by next Friday, I think we'll have our decision.
Yeah, we thought maybe even as early as Monday, too.
When we talked on July 4th, whether it was July 3rd or July 4th, I said for sure he would have his decision. I said we could be on the show next Friday talking about this. So,
absolutely, we were. And Zach, thank you for taking the time again. Have a really good extended weekend, Brian. Without jumping on tomorrow. Take that extra time and have some fun with it. I appreciate your time as always, and go Cavs, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, everybody, there goes Zak Baris. Please check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at American_media_. Subscribe, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. And do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between on Facebook and like our page. Peace.
The Unhappy Hour on thenewamericanmedia.com.